welcome back to my art channel. Today, I'm going to be drawing one of my favorite characters ever. Also, another jack-o'-lantern because, like I said, it is the spooky season and jack-o'-lanterns are my favorite. So, if you are at all familiar with me, you know that I really like Saint Seiya. Some of my best art is in fact Saint Seiya art. Another series that I hold near and dear to my heart is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I started watching it back when 4Kids actually was doing the dub and making a mess of it back in the early 2000s, and as an adult I have now seen the English and the Japanese one. And as far as story goes, the Japanese one is definitely better. But if you want something just like ridiculous and fun, you know, the English one is actually okay. It's a hilarious time, especially if you know the differences between the 4Kids version and the original, and then it's just a riot. Turn it into a drinking game every time you notice a change. Actually, that might kill you. Don't do that. Anyway, so I love Yu-Gi-Oh! And my favorite character from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was Ryou Bakura, which it's a shame for me because he gets very little screen time. He's hardly in it at all, but for some reason I love him. He is my favorite gremlin, and he's also into spooky stuff, and so it seemed appropriate to, you know, do a Halloween type picture with my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Boy. Last year I also did some Bakura fan art in vaguely Halloween themed. It was a watercolor painting. It was actually pretty adorable. So this isn't exactly a redraw of that. It's just I just like Bakura, and I needed to do a Halloween picture of him again this year, because I guess that's going to be my tradition. Is every year I draw Ryou Bakura with some sort of Halloween accessory. It's fine. It's fine. I can do that. It's my life. And this is a little different than, you know, most of the art I've posted, or most of the videos you've seen me do, because I didn't use a reference picture. One, because I've drawn Bakura a lot, so I don't really need reference pictures of him, but I didn't use a reference for the pose. Normally you guys see me like trace out the shapes from like a magazine photo and then just work with that, or work on top of that, and I didn't do that for this one because I just kind of didn't feel like it when I sat down to do this. I had a pretty decent idea of what I wanted to do. Generally, I use photos if I'm not sure exactly how I want a character to look, or like what I want them to be doing. So what I do is I have this Pinterest board of just drawing references, and it's just like magazine photo shoots of people just kind of standing around doing stuff. You know, you've seen some of the pictures I've used, and I just use those as references. I'm like, oh, well, that's a nice pose, I'll use that. And so sometimes if I'm really stuck on like what I want to draw, I'll just pull up that Pinterest board and just scroll down until I see something I like, and then I'll use that as just like a jumping off point. So that's pretty fun. I feel like, I mean, there are a lot of issues with Pinterest, but honestly, I think it's pretty good for collecting reference photos. Like if you just need like to see what someone, like how someone's clothes fold when they're sitting down, it's really easy to find stuff like that on Pinterest without accidentally stumbling across porn. Like if you're like, I need hand references because I can't figure out how to draw this hand, and you try to type it into Google, you might find some funky stuff. that is not appropriate for all ages and is not cool if you're not expecting it. Pinterest does not do that to me because they have really strict policies on, appropriateness. So you can just be like, I need a hand reference, and you're just gonna get hands, just pictures of hands and nothing pornographic. So that's really useful. My friend Emily is trying to learn to draw, and she's explained some of her woes about looking for reference pictures because she's just like, oh, I need a reference. So she just types it in to Google, and then she freaked out because she got a lot of porn back. And I'm like, yeah, that happens. That's what Google does. Even if you have safe search turned on, sometimes things will just slip by, and it's not a good time if you're not expecting it and if you're not okay with that. So Pinterest, if you want safe for work reference photos, Pinterest. And I pretty much only use it for that purpose, is just collecting reference photos. I don't really understand Pinterest outside of that. Apparently it's social media, and apparently Super Hulock is making a comeback on Pinterest, and I don't understand at all. Anyway, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Was one of my favorite shows growing up, and it was really before I understood that there was a difference between anime and Western cartoons. And my experience with Yu-Gi-Oh! Was via 4Kids, which was a time and a half, especially as you got older and you realized they did some weird shit, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually not super appropriate for children, but 4Kids was specifically for children. Their target audience was 7 and under, which did not work for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there are lots of scenes where people chase around the main characters with guns and people die, and it's not something appropriate for children under 7. But 4Kids was like, no, it's a cartoon, so we're gonna make it with fantasy elements. Bonus points, it's a cartoon with fantasy elements, so we're gonna turn it into a kid show. And that meant they had to cut out a lot of things, so it kind of really messed up the animation. But ironically, it's not the worst job they've ever done with a dub. I mean, there's this infamous scene in Pokemon where they call some rice balls some onigiri jelly donuts. And most everyone I know my age was really determined to find donuts like that, but we never could, and it wasn't until we were adults and more into anime that we found out that those were not in fact donuts. Those were rice balls. So that's an adventure, but that's still not the worst thing 4Kids has ever done. The worst thing 4Kids has ever done was dub One Piece. So, yes, One Piece, the original English dub for One Piece, was done by 4Kids Animation. No, 4Kids Entertainment. Which, so listen, if you're at all familiar with One Piece, you know that it is absolutely not appropriate for children because it's about pirates. It's very bloody, it's very violent. Someone dies every other episode. I mean, usually a bad guy, but there's lots of death, and it's a pirate show. It's a pirate show. It just happens to be animated, but it's not at all appropriate for children. But in the early 2000s, everyone in America was like, well, if it's animated, it must be for children. And 4Kids was like, yes, we're going to buy the rights to this show called One Piece because it is super popular in Japan. And I think in Japan it had 200 episodes at that point. And they're like, yeah, no, this would be great. And so they bought the rights to it. And then, lo and behold, it was not at all appropriate for children. So the amount of editing that had to be done to make it appropriate for kids target demographic was insane. So Red Bart has a video about the One Piece, the 4Kids One Piece dub, and it's really great. I recommend it. And I think there are even channels floating around that just legitimately just compare the 4Kids dub to the original One Piece and like just mark all of the differences, and some of them are insane. Listen, getting into anime when I was a kid was wild because most of the dubs available were bad. I think why a lot of people are super like divided about dubs versus subs is that like people in my age group, when we got into anime, all the dubs were hack dubs. They were like for companies like 4Kids or DIC that just saw these like animated things and are like, oh, they must be for children, and then tried to market them to children in North America, even though it turns out they are not really appropriate for children. Like Saint Seiya was also dubbed by DIC. I mean, Saint Seiya's had a couple of dubs, but the first one was by DIC, which did Sailor Moon, like the original Sailor Moon English dub. And so they edited a lot of Saint Seiya because, like, Seiya, in order to win his cloth, like, fights a guy and rips his ear off. Which is not at all appropriate for 7 and under children in the United States. So they had to heavily edit that, but then eventually they just handed over the rights to, I think it was ADV, which is no longer a company, who just did a like less censored dub that pretty much just you could only buy the DVD copies of it. It didn't air anywhere. And DIC also did Sailor Moon, in which the entire cast in the first season dies in the season finale. And yeah, that's not appropriate for children. So the season 1 Sailor Moon finale is a 2-parter, so it's like an hour. And they edited it so heavily that it was only 1 episode. And they implied that no one died, even though they did. This is also the dub notorious for making Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune cousins. Because the only way because lesbians are not okay. They can't be in love with each other. They have to be cousins. It's the only way to explain their relationship, which made it worse because there are some you couldn't possibly edit out like everything about their relationship. Like it's just so ingrained into the source material. They couldn't edit out everything. So sometimes it was really uncomfortable when they'd have a moment together and you're like, wait, but they're cousins. It's a time. So dubs were pretty questionable when I was younger. Pretty much everything like after I graduated high school is pretty solid, though. People complain a lot, but you did not live through the 4Kids era, okay? You did not live through like dub piece. the 4Kids dub of One Piece. You didn't live through that, so you can't really complain about English dubs of things that are out now because you don't know how bad they were. Like, I don't remember who did it, but someone got the rights to Cardcaptor Sakura for, like, a North American release, and given how popular, like, boy-oriented shows were, they decided that they needed to turn this thing into, like, a shonen anime, which it's not. It's not. Like, Cardcaptor Sakura is a magical girl show. It's about Sakura. But they edited the English version, which was just called Cardcaptors, to be more Lee-centric. Like, it tried to make him the main character, but it really couldn't because he's not the main character. But they tried really hard, And so it's super awkward and weird. So that's another dub I don't recommend. But those all came out like early 2000s. So pretty much everything post that I think is fine, honestly. Can't really complain. Unless I just don't like the voices actors they picked. Or like, you know, directorial decisions. You know, otherwise they're fine. It's fine. It's not 4Kids One Piece. But I will never let that die. And also, you know, it took me like 5 tries to record this audio because my dog kept whining at me. He was hungry, but the thing is I had given him food. There was food in his bowl. The thing is he wanted people food. Like he wanted some of my dinner, which he's not allowed to have. So he insisted on whining at me because he was hungry and I wasn't sharing. But eventually he ate his own food. But by then I'd given up recording any sort of audio because he was just gonna interrupt me continuously. So, yeah, new day, new attempts at audio. He's taking a nap right now. It's great. So the air conditioner just kicked on. That's fun. Yes, it's October, but I still have my air conditioner going. I may have mentioned this before. I live in a desert. It is still, like, I can still wear shorts and t-shirts outside, and it pretty much only gets cold at night. So like I will take a jacket with me. That way if the sun goes down, I can put it on. And then I'm fine. But otherwise, yeah, I'm still doing shorts and t-shirts because it is still hot where I live, which it's not great. Not a fan. Definitely prefer cooler weather. Definitely want to move somewhere in which I can experience cooler weather. One of my friends does not like the idea of me moving. But, you know, honestly, it'll probably take me a while to be able to move anywhere. So she doesn't have to worry too much about that. But, like, man, it is so hot all of the time. It's October. It's October. It's October and it's still 80 degrees outside. Damn it. And here we go, all done with my second Halloween piece of this season. Hopefully I will be able to whip out at least one more for the actual day of Halloween. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I post new videos once a week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!